Hi guys, welcome back to our Code Gavel series. And today we're finally answering the big one. How do you legally structure your Web3 startup? So whether you're launching from India or you're launching from Dubai, Singapore, or Wyoming, you need a real world entity to support your on-chain dreams.
Right. So this is the
Welcome, sir.
episode where vibes become viable. Welcome, Harshitha. Thanks for having us over. So you might have written a white paper, launched a testnet, or deployed your first smart contract. But if you're handling funds, building a treasury, or planning a token launch, legal infrastructure just isn't optional, right? We are unpacking LLPs, DAOs, LLCs, foundations, and the structure which could best align, with your protocols, architecture, and roadmap.
Exactly. Let's first discuss about why you even need a legal structure, right? Let's start there.
Yeah.
So a lot of developers say, right, that it's decentralized there and they don't need a company essentially. So what do you have to say to that?
Right. So we've seen Harshita, right? I mean, it's just till someone sues you, right? And your name shows up on the lawsuit just because you held a multi-sig key, right? So in practice, decentralized doesn't mean disconnected from legal entity reality, right? The moment your protocol interacts with fiat, users, partnerships, or off-chain infra, you're in the legal domain, right? Without a wrapper, liability pierces the DAO layer and you're exposed individually.
Exactly. And we've already discussed this. We can't emphasize enough on this. A legal wrapper protects you, gives you legitimacy for banking, compliance, and investment. Even in Web3, if you're touching funds, users, or partners, you definitely need a legal structure.
Yeah.
With that, let's discuss a few types of entity options. Let's start with India, but
Yeah.
discuss a few more in this episode. The first one, let's discuss an LLP or a private limited in India. So, for founders based in India and serving Indian users, you can start simple. An LLP or a private limited is good enough. It gives you tax ID, banking, GST, and it's investor friendly,
Right. And
right?
for teams running dev, QA support or content ops in India, it's efficient as well, right? But here's the catch. If your project involves token issuance, staking rewards, or liquidity management, then the Indian law isn't friendly for you. So a smart way to play is to use the Indian entity purely for non-token activities and spinning up a global wrapper for the token layer.
Exactly, that is true. Tokens are tricky under Indian law right now, and if you're issuing, it is best to keep the token part outside of India and use the Indian entity for, like Pranjal said, devs, ops, or services. One of the companies that I can think of that follows the same structure as Questbook, that runs dev operations in India, while token issuance happens through another entity completely.
Yeah.
Coming to our second option, which is a DAO LLC in Wyoming, USA. This becomes important because Wyoming was the first state to allow a DAO to register as an LLC. It gives you limited liability and recognition as a legal person for a DAO.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is huge for projects built around multi-sig coordination, right? Like
Hmm.
grants, DAOs, NFT collectives, or protocol governance. Right? Legally, it allows a DAO to sign contracts, hold property, or even pay taxes while being governed by code, right? And it's especially
Exactly.
useful for DAOs where there's no central founder, just a community-run
Hmm.
treasury or on-chain voting model.
Exactly. But even here, banking and taxation are still hard. You will need a solid US agent, and you can't hide behind decentralization if you're managing funds. That is something that you need to be cautious about.
Right. And tech-wise, your DAO smart contracts can still be the control layer, but now you've got an off-chain wrapper for signing off on audits, grants, and external obligations.
Right. Um, okay. Let's go to our third option. Third suggestion that we're going to talk about is our Panama Foundation or a Cayman Foundation, which is very famous for
Yeah.
projects launching tokens or managing ecosystems. Foundations are basically the go-to for them. They're essentially non-profit legal wrappers commonly used in Web3. The foundation doesn't have shareholders like usually companies do. It holds the project, manages the treasury and grants, etc.
Right. Right. And technically, they're powerful, right? Foundations have no
Mm-hmm.
shareholders. As you mentioned, they serve the ecosystem, not the founders, right? So this makes them ideal for token issuance, where the token represents governance or utility, but not equity, right? And
Mm-hmm.
they're used to anchor trustless systems in a compliant framework. You'll see Polkadot, MakerDAO, DAO, and Ethereum Foundation go this route.
Exactly, and they're also great if your token isn't meant to benefit founders directly, but
Yeah.
meant to support an ecosystem. Like foundations like Neo Foundation, Ethereum Foundation, both manage open ecosystems through structured governance very efficiently.
Right.
Okay. Having said all of that, let's talk about one more type of entity before closing the segment. Let's talk about variable capital companies that are incorporated in Singapore. These are for funds, DAOs acting like investment pools or treasuries managing DeFi assets. Singapore's VCC structure works well too.
Right.
What are your thoughts?
Right. So it's essentially like a DAO with a fund grade structure, right? Ideal
Hmm.
for DeFi protocols, managing yield strategies, LP positions, or real world asset bridges, right? So the BCC gives legal clarity to fund flows that originate on chain.
Exactly. With that, I remember a real case that happened recently where a DAO managing a 2 million treasury decided not to incorporate, and a dispute arose, and suddenly every wallet signer was considered personally liable in their local country. I'm sure you must have heard of that.
Oh, yeah, I remember that, right? And worse, no one knew which country the lawsuit belonged in, right? The project had nodes in 4 countries, treasury in USDC, and contributors on 3 continents, right? So that's legal chaos. I mean, the cost of setting up a wrapper early is nothing compared to litigation across multiple borders.
Exactly. You can directly equate lack of structure to legal chaos. So
Yeah,
the lesson here is if your DAO or token project is holding funds or signing agreements, you definitely need to wrap it.
yeah,
Okay. Having discussed this, let's conclude this with saying that whatever structure you should choose depends on what you're building, who your users are, where your team is, and what your token notes. What your token does if you're issuing tokens, and there are multiple other factors that you need to consider, obviously.
yeah,
And yeah,
yeah. And it's okay to start rough, right? Most protocols do. I mean, but your stack should evolve, and legal structure is just as critical as your backend or governance design, right? Think of it as a compliance layer, one that protects contributors, legitimizes your tokenomics, and prepares you for scaling.
exactly. And that is exactly where we come in play. With Code Gavel, we can help you assess, structure, and file in India or abroad. You can reach out to us for any kind of requirements of that sort. In our next episode, we will talk about launching legally, how to issue tokens, draft smart TNCs, and avoid common mistakes while also continuing exploring different types of entities in the Web3 space.
Right. That
Thank
sounds
you.
interesting. Yes. Looking forward to it. And till then, subscribe, comment with your country, and we might tailor a full legal ops breakdown for your region next. Thanks for watching.
Interesting. Thank you. Thank you so much.